Hola from West Virginia. Still no. But what we have is joke of the day because it is the best part of the day and I love this joke. Are you ready? Let's do this. What does an annoying pepper do? Gets jalapeno face. A jalapeno pepper. Okay, all right. Anyway, let's get up in the face of percents. So we're going to take a look at a percent of a quantity. And in order to get a percent of a quantity, what you need to understand is that the word of in math always means multiplication. Now, don't confuse that with out of. The combination out of means division. This is strictly of. So the word of always means multiplication. So if that's the case, then we can take situations like this and we can turn them into equations and then they become very easy to solve because we know how to solve equations. So let's take a look at this first example that says what number is 60% of 95? Now remember I said of means multiplication, so that's like saying I have a multiplication right there. You know that the word is means equals. So now I've established an equation because the number is what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to assign that a variable. Let's go with an n and say let's let n equal that number that I'm looking for. And what that does is it allows me to establish an equation. N equals 60% times 95. And now all I have to do is solve that equation. Pretty easy to solve because all I have to do is take 60% times 95. Now the problem is we cannot use 60% as the percentage in that way. We have to convert it to a decimal, but we've already learned how to convert them to decimals. We know that we're going to take that decimal point that we see right here and we're going to kick it back 2 to the left, creating a 0.60. So now we're going to take 0.60 times 95, and 0.60 times 95 is going to be 57. So that tells us that 57 is the number that is 60% of 95. All right, let's try another one. This one says find 9% of 10,000. There again, that word of indicates multiplication. So that tells me I'm going to take that 9% and I'm going to multiply it to this 10,000, and that will give me the number that I'm looking for. So let's just assign a variable. Let's let x equal that number that I'm looking for. So that x is going to be 9% times 10,000. Now again, can't use 9 as a percentage, got to turn it into a decimal. So that means take the decimal point that's sitting back here, kick it 2 to the left, and that will turn it into 0.09. And we're going to take that 0.09 and multiply it to 10,000. And that will tell me that my x is going to be 900. Now, because this is dollars, then I'm going to go ahead and put that unit in there. And I'm going to say that this is going to be $900. And $900 is 9% of $10,000. Okay, let's keep this rolling because we're getting pretty good at this. So the next one says 30 is 20% of what number? Here again, that word of indicates multiplication. The word is indicates equals. And now I'm able to establish an equation that says 30 equals 20% times some number. I don't know what that number is. So now that I know what my unknown is, I'm going to define it as a variable. Let's get creative. Let's call this one a W. For what? What number? I don't know. So let W equal that number. And I'm going to take 20% times that number. Once again, cannot use 20% as a percentage. Got to turn that into a decimal. Once again, take the decimal point that's currently sitting here, kick it back 2 to the left, giving me 0.20. So now what I have is 30 equals 0.20 times that W, and I'm going to go ahead and get those parentheses out of there because we know that when things sit beside each other, that indicates multiplication. So the fact that this 0.20 is sitting beside the W indicates multiplication. And now what I'm going to do is undo what has been done to that variable so that I can get it by itself. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to divide by 0.20 on the left and the right. And when I take 30 and divide it by 0.20, 30 divided by 0.20 is 150. So there's my W. So that means that 30 is 20% of the number 150. All right, let's try a couple more. Again, you know that I like to give you guys lots of examples to make sure that we're really good at this and we're very comfortable with this. So, a couple more. This one says 19.3 is 25% of what number? Here again, the word is means equals, the word of means multiplication, and I can write an equation now. 19.3 equals 25% times some number, and I don't know what that number is. So here again, let's give it a variable. This time we'll use D. Let D equal the number. And as we said before, I cannot use 25 as a percentage. I need to turn it into a decimal. So that decimal point that's currently sitting back here, I'm going to kick it back 2 to the left, giving me 0.25. So 19.3 is going to equal 0.25 D. And like I said before, I'm going to get rid of those parentheses because we know that when things sit beside each other, that indicates multiplication. And so now I got to get rid of that 0.25 to get that D by itself. So because the 0.25 is being multiplied to the D, I'm going to divide both sides by that 0.25. And when I take 19.3 and I divide it by that 0.25, 19.3 divided by 0.25 is a 77.2. And so 77.2 is the number that 19.3 is 25% of. Okay. A few more. These are going to have a different feel to them. That's why we're doing so many examples. This one says 15 is what percent of 120? Here again, the is means equals, the of means multiplication. I now can set up an equation. And my equation says 15 equals, aha, the percent is what I don't know. So there's my unknown. I'm going to define it by a variable. Let's let P equal that percent that I'm looking for. So 15 equals P times 120. Now, once again, what I'm going to do is rewrite a little bit so that I can get rid of the parentheses because I know it's 120 and PB sitting beside each other, and I'd rather not have that parentheses in there. So I'm going to have 120P, and now what I need to do is get that P by itself. So what I'm going to do is undo what's been done to that P. It's been multiplied by 120, so I'm going to divide by 120. Now, 15 divided by 120 is 0.125. The problem is that is written as a decimal. Just like up in these, we said, okay, I can't use it as a percent. I need to convert it to a decimal. Well, this is the decimal format that I now need to convert into a percent. How do you convert it into a percent? Remember, I'm going to reverse this idea here. This idea said kick it 2 to the left. Now what I'm going to do is kick it 2 to the right. And when I kick it 2 to the right, that gives me a 12.5. And 12.5 is the percentage. You can check this because you can take 12.5% of 120 and you're going to come up with 15. If I take 12.5 and 12.5% and multiply it to 120, you know that means that I'm going to turn this into the decimal format, which is right here. And when I take 0.125 times 120, I do in fact get a 15. So I know that it's right. And I can check these as well. I can take that 77.2 and I can multiply it by 25%. In other words, take 77.2 and multiply it by 0.25. And sure enough, I'll get a 19.3. So you can check all these to make sure that they're right. That's the handy thing about this. All right, so let's do just a couple more, again, to make sure we're very good at this. This one says 40 is what percent of 90? 40 is what percent of 90? Well, my is means equals, my of means multiplication. So that gives me 40 equals, the percent is what I'm looking for. So let's use that P equal the percentage. And I'm going to take that percent, I'm going to multiply it to a 90. So now what I have to do is I have to undo what's been done to that 90. I need to divide both sides by that 90. And 40 divided by 90 is 0.4, but what you'll notice is the 4 repeats. 0.444444444. So what I'm going to do is put a bar above that 4 to say that's going to repeat, and that gets the P all by itself. But like we said before, that's the decimal format. I need a percentage format. So I'm going to take this decimal point, I'm going to kick it 2 to the right, and remember that 4 is going to repeat over and over and over again. So now it becomes 44.4%. And again, that bar over the 4 indicates that that's going to repeat. And that is going to be the number that I'm looking for. And I can check this because I can take 44.4% and turn it into a 0.4 repeating, which is 4/9 or 40 over 9. And I can multiply that to the 90 and I will get 40 out of that. So I know that it'll be right. All right, last one here. 20 is what percent of 30? Once again, one last time, that is means equals, that of means multiplication. So that tells me that I have 20 equals, the percent is what I don't know. We'll go ahead and use that P one more time. So it's going to be P times that 30. And so that tells me what I want to do now is I want to divide both sides by that 30 to get that P by itself. Divide by 30. And 20 divided by 30, 2/3 is the decimal value. And here we go again with something that repeats, 0.6 repeating. And that's my P. But like we said before, that's the decimal format. I want the percent format. That's the decimal format. I want the percent format. So we know that means kick it 2 to the right, 1, 2. I'm not filling in zeros because the 6 is repeating, just like up here. I wasn't filling it in with zeros. The 4 was repeating. So I'm going to get a 66.6, and that 6 is going to repeat, and that's going to be my percentage, 66.6%. So a 20 is 66.6% of 30, and we can check that by taking this 66.6, converting it into a decimal, which would be 0.6 repeating, multiply that to 30, which is essentially 2/3. Take 30 and multiply by 2/3, you do in fact get 20, so we know that it's right. So I hope that this helps, and lots of applications with percentages, which I'll do in another video and show you the applications. Have a great day.